Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Morning Report. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the House vote that didn't just ruffle feathers, clip some wings. The DOGE cuts. Yes, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency's long-awaited budget scissors. They have made their first deep slice. But is this fiscal discipline, or are we watching another round of performative politics with Big Bird in the crosshairs? This is the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. Let's dive in. On Thursday, by the narrowest of margins, 214 to 212. And what that means is if one more Republican votes no, the vote is 213 and 213, and the bill fails. The House of Representatives passed a $9.4 billion rescission package. These aren't hypothetical cuts. This is real money. Previously allocated, now being clawed back. The bill aims to codify the first round of reductions proposed under the DOGE initiative. And again, DOGE is short for Department of Government Efficiency. If that sounds like something out of a satire piece, welcome to 2025. The DOGE cuts have been touted as an efficiency revolution, backed by President Trump and heavily influenced by our boy Elon Musk. The DOGE proposals seek to eliminate redundancy, streamline bureaucracy, and shift funding away from what we know are ideological subsidies to productive investments. So what's being cut? We heard a lot. And you will hear a lot today and on the Sunday shows about what's being cut. Let's break it down line by line. All right. Here's a quick summary of what this bill slashed. $8.3 billion in foreign aid. And that includes $1.1 billion from PEPFAR. PEPFAR is the HIV/AIDS relief program, $900 million from UN-affiliated climate and migration programs, or $2.4 billion from USAID, economic assistance to non-strategic countries. That's for I don't know, Iraqi, Sesame Street and that kind of stuff. $1.2 billion from refugee resettlement and support overseas. That means settling refugees that are coming here from countries that we're not connected to. $1.5 billion in unspent COVID foreign health allocations. $1.1 billion from the public broadcasting, targeting the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR and PBS subsidies, regional grants to local affiliate stations. Now, Hakeem Jeffries is down on the House floor holding an Elmo. But what a lot of us know is that Sesame Street has HBO money, and lots of it. Sesame Street has done a good job. The Center for Public Broadcasting has done a good job, especially Sesame Street has done a good job. Because what they were able to do, they were able to decide that they weren't going to be on the hook to do the back and forth of federal government. That they had a product and they could make their own money and they could tell their own stories. And they did. And they do. Big Bird has FU money, by the way. He just does. And so does Elmo. And so does Snuffleupagus. And Grover. And Cookie Monster. And Oscar. And Kermit. They all have FU money. They don't need my money. Not anymore. $150 million from equity in energy federal initiatives, whatever that is. $200 million from cultural diplomacy programs. $300 million from unspent DEI related pilot project. Supporters say this is just the first chapter. Future cuts will go after education bureaucracy, the HUD entitlements, and redundant defense are research and development. Now, what's frustrating is that the vote was closer than a coin flip. All the Democrats voted no, while 4 Republicans joined them. Mark, and make sure I get this name, Omadi, Brian Fitzpatrick, Mike Lawler, and John Duarte. What changed the game was really this good old-fashioned getting the backroom political muscle. GOP leaders twisted arms and flipped 2 hesitant Republicans, Nick Lalata from New York and Don Bacon from Nebraska, in the final hour, right at the end. On the House floor, it got theatrical like it's going to. It's 2025, right? Democrats brought, Hakeem Jeffries, I told you, brought Elmo dolls and photos of Sesame Street characters, claiming the Republicans were silencing children and gutting education. Did I just tell you that Sesame Street has HBO dollars? Congressman Hakeem Jeffries called it a war on joy. Yes. I'm sorry. A war on joy. Meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson from Louisiana called it a modest but moral first step towards cleaning up fiscal rot. And that's the real debate. Not about Muppets, but about whether the federal government should be in the entertainment business, whether we should subsidize propaganda, or whether we can afford to keep pretending money grows on trees. Well, it's paper, it kind of does. But now, a lot of people want to know why PEPFAR is under fire here. PEPFAR is the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Used to be a bipartisan darling. So why the sudden heat? Last year, because the left always goes too far. And a lot of these Republican politicians just go along for the ride, to their detriment. Last year, an audit revealed that PEPFAR funds were used for abortions in Mozambique. This is supposed to be for AIDS relief. A clear violation of the Helms Amendment. The CDC admitted that $4,100 went to 21 abortion procedures. They murdered 21 people. Though the funds were reimbursed, well, we gave it back. You used it to kill 21 people. It shattered trust. Pro-life watchdogs called it the tip of the iceberg. Liberals call the backlash extreme. But the truth is, conservatives are tired of playing defense on morality. PEPFAR became a target not because it's all bad, because it proved once again that bureaucracy and accountability don't mix. Musk put it bluntly. If they can't follow federal law, they don't get federal dollars. Makes sense to me. Well, gotta say this here. In all these things, there are things that have been done that are being done well, and things, well, not so well. So it's up to us to call it all out. So let's be honest. Cutting NPR and PBS and foreign aid is popular on the right, and for good reason. NPR has leaned left for decades, using federal dollars to insult the very taxpayers that are funding it. I used to be involved and do some work with some people who are on the local public radio station here in my town. And it's amazing the shows that get funded and get put on the air here. That I mean, the people who get on these shows, some of them who host these programs hate this country. They hate everything this country stands for. They hate everything this country's ever stood for. They hate everything this country's ever done. Yes, I know you're asking a question. So why are they here? I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. But they're perfectly okay with sitting in this really actually their new studios are gorgeous, by the way. Um, that a lot of it was built on taxpayer dollars, actually spitting on the very taxpayers that bought the chair they're sitting on. It's weird. It's just weird. PBS doesn't need a subsidy. Again, when Sesame Street is flush with HBO licensing money, Sesame Street has FU money, y'all. They get HBO money. Foreign aid it often rewards corrupt regimes while ignoring crumbling American cities. But here's the rub: $9.4 billion, which is a lot of money, is pocket change when you're talking about a $6 trillion budget. There's fraud. If the Republicans want credibility, they'll need to go beyond safe symbolic cuts. This means touching the real monsters: entitlement reform, agency duplication, and yes, in federal pensions. This idea, well, pensions are a weird thing. This idea that we're going to pay you money not to work. We're going to force you out at some age and then give you money as if you're here every day. It would seem to me that it would be better. And I think Social Security is going to be one of those things. And we've been talking about that since I was a young person. That money that we pay into Social Security, if we paid it into at the time, now money markets aren't the thing now, but at the time, money markets and same amount of money, that a lot of us would be millionaires by now. We would retire millionaires because we had two things working for us. We had time and we had an interest rate. So this idea of compound interest was going to really work for us. It was much better than the pyramid scheme that Social Security is. That would have worked out a lot better for people my age who are retired or are about to retire. But socialist regimes don't work that way. So the Doge cuts are a start, a decent start. But this cannot be where the story ends. This cannot be where the story ends. All right, now this bill, because we grew up with Schoolhouse Rock, is now headed to the Senate. And frankly, it's walking into a buzzsaw. We already know the people who are voicing concerns over the symbolic things. We know that Susan Collins is a problem. Lisa Murkowski is a problem. Mittens Romney is a problem. They're already going, oh, this is public broadcasting and PEPFAR. And of course, the quote moderate Democrats are lining up to play the compassion card. The White House hasn't said the White House hasn't said it would veto the bill, but Press Secretary that's right. The former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre called it a reckless and mean-spirited attempt to defund Americans' conscience. So if it passes the Senate, all hell's gonna break loose. Awesome. Meanwhile, Musk and Trump are playing the long game. They framed this first round as a test of moral seriousness. A test of moral seriousness. If the Senate fails, they'll campaign. If the Senate fails, they'll campaign on it on it in 2026. If it passes, expect more bills, deeper cuts, and louder shrieks from NPR studios. All right, so this is this fiscal discipline or just political theater? Well, frankly, it's both. It is a step in the right direction. It is a step in the right direction, but also a carefully choreographed show. And frankly, that's fine as long as it leads to something that's real. Conservatives have waited decades for an actual rollback of government excess. Now is not the time to settle for crumbs. The DOGE cuts must be followed by full audit transparency. I don't know how that doesn't seem like it's a good idea. Major agency consolidation. Why do we, again, why do we still have the Department of Education? Why do we still have the EPA? Why do we have the Department of Energy of all the stupidest things ever? Why? Why isn't there a buyout for people in Social Security? And there needs to be. Not if, I mean, not if you're 62, but if you're 18, if you're 18 years old, just getting into the workforce, there needs to be an option for you to opt out. There needs to be. And that whole system needs to be dismantled. Otherwise, we don't do these things in real entitlement reform. The whole thing is just a catchy acronym and a rerun of some Reagan era promises that never came to fruition. Well, here's what you can do. I know I always in these programs anymore with what you can do. Call your senators, especially if you live in a purple state. Now, my state, I think I'm going to be okay. I think both of my senators are going to vote for it. Demand that they support the DOGE package. You can share this episode. If the left is going to use puppets, we're just going to use facts. Support real conservative media, because if we don't tell the story, nobody will. Hi, I'm Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. Just like always, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.